ever feel like, maybe you should be a little more prepared? Just in case.
Yeah.
Not like full-on doomsday prepper or anything,
Right.
but just, more aware.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're digging into today.
Okay.
We're diving into the FEMA CERT manual.
Yeah.
But don't worry, this isn't about, memorizing a dry government textbook.
Right.
It's more about,
It's about pulling out those golden nuggets, those practical things.
those practical tips. Exactly.
Like a cheat sheet
Yeah.
for resilience. So when something happens, you kind of know what to do, especially right afterwards.
Especially in those first few hours, right? Because, let's face it,
Exactly.
when disaster strikes,
Yeah.
waiting for help, that might not be an option.
No.
And this manual really hits hard on those first 72 hours.
It is. It's huge, that 72-hour challenge.
The 72-hour challenge.
It's huge.
So what does that actually look like?
So picture this. The phones are down. You can't get through.
Oh, wow.
Roads are blocked. You can't get anywhere.
Right.
And emergency services, everybody wants them.
Of course, yeah.
So they're spread incredibly thin.
Wow.
And that's where that self-sufficiency that the manual talks about is just absolutely critical.
So we're talking food, water,
Yes.
first aid,
Yes.
all the basics, right?
All that. Yep.
But I'm guessing it's more than just stock up on some canned goods.
It is a lot more than that.
Okay.
And it gets into some really interesting things.
Okay.
Like household hazards.
Uh-huh.
Things that we just don't really think about
Right.
in our normal life.
Yep.
Like, for instance, your water heater.
Okay.
Do you know if it's secured?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
A lot of people don't. And if that's not strapped down,
Okay.
when the earthquake hits, it can rupture lines, gas lines,
Oh.
and then you have fire on top of earthquake.
So it's like a hazard on top of a hazard.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the manual does a really good job of pointing those things out.
So it's not just about having the stuff. It's also knowing
Yes.
what could go wrong.
What could go wrong in your house?
Yeah, what could go wrong in my own house. Exactly.
Oh.
Okay, so what other kind of unexpected hazards does it highlight?
Well, think about it. Heavy furniture,
Oh, right, yeah.
mirrors, things hanging on the walls.
Right, because if there's an earthquake or even high winds,
Exactly.
those are projectiles.
Yeah. They become missiles.
Yeah, like missiles in your own house.
And what the manual suggests is, again, very simple things.
Okay,
Straps to hold things down, latches,
right.
simple things.
Simple things, but it makes all the difference.
Huge difference.
So it sounds like this manual, it has a lot of these very practical, actionable tips
It is.
that even if, you're not super handy,
Right.
you can still implement.
You can do it. And speaking of things you can do,
Okay.
let's talk about your house.
Okay.
How is your house built?
Okay.
Would you consider it a safe haven? Or when disaster hits, a hazard zone?
A hazard zone.
No.
I mean, I guess it depends on the disaster, right?
Right.
A strong house, that's going to be better than
Yeah.
a mobile home if there's a hurricane.
Of course, yeah.
So it really depends.
It depends. And the manual gets into
Okay.
building materials,
Right.
construction styles,
Okay.
how those things affect,
Right.
how resilient the structure is.
So it's like home construction 101,
Kind of, yeah.
but for disaster preparedness.
Right, exactly. So,
Okay.
for example,
Yeah.
you live in earthquake country.
Right.
Slab foundation versus a raised foundation.
Right.
That's going to make a big difference.
Huge difference. Okay, so knowing your house
Yes.
and kind of the weak points.
Absolutely.
But what about supplies?
Oh, yeah.
I'm imagining this manual has a whole list
It does. It's extensive.
of must-haves.
And it's surprising.
Okay.
Like, one of the things is duct tape.
Duct tape, really.
Duct tape, yeah.
What's so great about duct tape?
That's like the silver bullet, right? You can patch a tent.
Okay.
You can make a splint
Ow.
if you need to seal a door because of contaminated air.
Oh, right, yeah.
Duct tape.
So many uses.
It's amazing.
Okay, what else is on this surprisingly extensive list?
A whistle.
Okay.
Because if you need to signal for help,
Right.
a whistle will travel a lot farther
That's true, yeah.
than your voice will, especially if you're hurt.
Right. Especially if you can't really yell.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good one. A whistle. All right, what else should I add to my shopping list?
A wrench
A wrench.
to turn off your utilities.
Oh, to turn off the utilities?
Gas leaks, electrical hazards.
Right, that makes sense.
Huge.
After a disaster,
Yes.
knowing how to turn that off.
Very important.
Okay, that's going on the list. It's amazing how these little things,
Right.
like a wrench or some duct tape,
Yeah.
make such a big difference.
Huge difference.
So it's like, be prepared for anything,
be prepared for anything.
which is good advice for life in general.
It is, and it stresses. It's
Right.
not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Think about medications,
Oh, right, yeah.
special dietary needs.
Right, right.
Yep.
Your pets. Yes, because in a disaster, your pets, they can't fend for themselves.
Exactly.
We've got to think about them too. So we've talked about, the individual getting those supplies,
Yeah.
but the manual also goes into CERT, right?
It does, yeah.
So it's not just like read the manual and hope for the best.
Right. It's about taking that next step,
Okay.
empowering people to
Yeah.
take that response into their own hands.
Right. So it's more than just like a neighborhood watch.
It's more than that.
It's like you have the skills and the knowledge
Yeah.
to actually help.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, for example, the buddy system,
Okay.
you're never working alone.
Okay. So there's always two of you.
Two of you for safety.
Right. That makes sense.
And it goes into the CERT command structure.
A command structure. What is that?
So it's like
Yeah.
a well-oiled machine
Yeah.
for that response. So you have your incident commander,
Okay.
oversees everything.
Right.
You've got your section chiefs.
Right.
They're the ones that are in charge of like operations,
Okay.
logistics, planning,
So it's very structured.
very structured. So everybody knows
Right.
what they're doing, where to go, who to talk to.
Because if something happens, it could be chaotic.
It can be, yeah.
So having that structure really helps.
Mhm.
So even if you're not
Right.
like a card-carrying CERT member,
You got it.
just knowing this stuff from the manual
It can make a big difference.
could be really helpful.
Hugely helpful.
It really could. Knowledge is power, right?
It is.
And when something like this happens,
Yeah.
that knowledge, it could save your life.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's one other thing in this manual we should talk about.
Okay.
Terrorism preparedness.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that, honestly, it's a little daunting.
It can be, yeah. But the thing is,
Right.
the manual does a good job of not, like,
Mhm.
scaring you. It's more like,
Right.
just be aware.
Okay.
And it talks about the 8 signs of terrorism.
The 8 signs. Okay. So they have like a list.
They have a list.
What's on the list?
So, like, if you notice unusual surveillance,
Uh-huh.
or if you see somebody trying to get a hold of, like, materials that could be explosives.
Okay. So that would be a bad sign.
Yeah. And they even talk about
Okay.
testing security,
Right.
like trying to get into somewhere they're not supposed to be,
Right.
messing with security cameras, things like that.
So it's like being aware of your surroundings,
Mhm.
noticing if something
Yes,
seems off,
exactly.
and then if you see something, then what do?
You say something,
Report it.
report it.
Okay. So knowledge is power,
Yes,
but it's also about like knowing what to do
exactly.
with that knowledge.
Yeah,
So we've covered a lot today.
we have.
That 72-hour period
Yes.
after a disaster,
So important.
hazards in your house,
Yeah.
the supplies,
Yes,
CERT terrorism.
a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of information.
But it's good information.
It is. And it's presented in a way
Right.
that's not overwhelming.
And that's the point. Right, it's broken down, so
Uh-huh.
you can take those steps.
Right. It makes it manageable. It's
Yeah.
not just like, be prepared.
Right.
It's like, here are things you can actually do.
You got it. And remember,
Yeah.
this isn't something you do once.
Right. It's not like a one-time thing.
It's ongoing. You assess, you adapt.
Right. Because things change, new information comes out. So
Exactly.
you got to stay up to date.
It's like building a habit.
Right. Like brushing your teeth
There you go. Exactly.
so that when something happens, you're not starting from zero.
Exactly.
You're like, okay, I kind of know what's up. Because like they say, chance favors the prepared mind or something like that.
That's right. That is right.
We can't predict these things,
No.
but we can control how prepared we are.
Absolutely we can. So think about this.
Oh.
Big earthquake hits.
Okay.
No phones, no power, can't drive anywhere.
Oh, wow.
What do you and your neighbors do?
That's a great question.
Right.
It really makes you think
It really does.
about like coming together as a community
Yes.
and how important that is.
Absolutely. And you know,
Yeah.
FEMA has a ton of resources.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Go to our website.
Yeah, the website. Because we just talked about a little bit today.
Just a little bit.
They go into a lot more depth.
Way more depth. They have the whole manual.
Right. And you can see if there are like
Yeah,
CERT
so-
trainings in your area.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is
Today.
today. So if you're inspired, don't wait.
Don't wait.
Check out the resources.
Fill it now.
And remember, every little bit helps.
Absolutely does.
Well, until next time, stay curious, stay prepared, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.
See you then.